Joining me. I'm going to go ahead and just double check that I am live and that all the text is there. But I wanted to say hello. It's been a long time since I've done a live. I think I remember how to do it still. You see, my partners there are not really very active. But I wanted to make sure that I touch base with you before my webinar next week, because I know that there are some questions that you might have and you may want to have like front load them with me so that I can anticipate those next week and then answer them on the webinar. So I believe there should be a link there so that you can find it, but I'll go ahead and see if I can add it here as well. Um, maybe I will not. Let's see. But the idea behind the webinar is I want to make sure that I have a chance to kind of talk you through the different components of science of reading. We're not going to go into great big details. Okay, good. The link's there. Um, I'm not going to go into great big details on the science behind it or the research behind it, although we can certainly refresh it. But what I'm really, really interested in is giving you some kind of like a checklist so that you can make sure, okay, I've gone through that webinar series with you, Dee Dee, last year. I have all of that stuff, but I don't know if I remember it all. Maybe you weren't able to get our units that have it all laid out for you. Maybe you're using something that your school has. So maybe you need to have a few tweaks in order to make it a little bit more effective for your students. So I want to give you like a checklist that you can use. And it can apply to any science of reading program based on what the best practices are. And then some ideas on what can you do, because I've had a couple of emails from people who said they have students who are learning slower, and we know that that's going to happen. We know that there's going to be students who don't learn as quickly as others. That's really why this is so essential, that we do a little prevention instead of intervention, right? So, but what do you do for those students who need to see it more? And so I'm going to give you some ideas of things that you can do without um, making it not, of course, I always like things to be fun as well. So there's ways that you can have activities that are fun and engaging. Your students will love, they'll be motivated to do, they'll be excited to come and see you at your small group table. So all of those things are kind of what I wanted to talk about. I really wanted it to be a big question and answer period, but I know that there's so many things. I'm getting like this message that I can't see your names. Okay. Um, hey, Casey. Love Brookings, Oregon. They are using our program. So I am so glad that you're here. Um, but I know that, sometimes you have students who need to see it more. So that's definitely what I would love. I would love to have some activities that I can give to you that you would be able to, okay, yeah, I can do that with my class. My class would be engaged. They would have a good time doing that. So that's sort of the whole point. So it's free. It's Tuesday night. We'll spend an hour ish. I'm usually a little long-winded, as you know. So we'll spend about an hour on the live webinar, giving content. And then, of course, I'll stay as long as necessary in order to answer all the questions. The other thing I wanted to mention is I'm going to be in Dallas over the weekend. So if anybody's in Dallas, I'm going to be at a conference there. The Texas Educators, it's TETELA conference. I'll be there Saturday. I'll be working in like a exhibit hall ish room. So if you're going to be there, I would love to see you all. I'm going to be previewing some of our decodable books that Hand of Mine has published for us. So if you haven't seen them, that's what these look like. I'll be going through these, which are like really, really simple decodable books, not simple to decode, but easy to use decodable books. So, okay. So Marie, your question is on leveled reading. So really, the question, great question. The reading levels should no longer be part of a kindergarten, first grade conversation when it comes to learning to read. Research has really shown that to be actually really detrimental to students. So I am a reformed balanced literacy person. I ate, drank, slept, taught guided reading So it's definitely had been a shift for me over the last couple of years to learn a lot about science of reading and go through the training and then really understand the impact of what leveled reading does for students and doesn't do for students. And so we shouldn't really be using any type of level text with kindergarten, first grade, or any student who hasn't properly learned how to decode words and encode words. So the answer is no, none of those level texts. There is an appropriate level text for kindergarten at the end of the year because we shouldn't be using those anymore. If you need help with why that is, I do have a couple of, let me see if I can grab a blog post that I did on that. Let's see if I can multitask here so that you can kind of read it because I'm telling you, when I first heard that being said, when somebody said to me, "What do no, you don't do guided reading anymore?" Wait, what? I had a hard time swallowing that pill because I had spent so much time learning about balanced literacy and learning, and oh my goodness gracious, so much was done. Um, in my training, and then, of course, the training that I did with students and with teachers all over the place. So, okay, here we go. I'm gonna drop that link in there. You love this answer. Yay! I'm so glad. Hi I bet that's Edme from Chicago. I think I think there it goes. There's the link. It's going out to YouTube, and now it's going out to Facebook. So, if you wanna look at that link, it's gonna give you kind of all the information as to why experts are getting away from guided reading. Some people are hanging on to it, but experts are saying, no, that's not what's appropriate. In fact, I think we've known for a long time. We, meaning the educational community, is known for a long time because the reports on the way that the brains work with reading have been out for a long time. But there's a lot of money involved with keeping the status quo. And so there were a lot of people who were just not ready to let go of that experts in the field. And of course, that all trickled down. It was only until people got really loud about it that things have started to change. And so now science of reading is really a better approach to teaching literacy. Yeah, good. I'm glad you like that answer. I like that answer too. But it's really hard to change. Um, I mean, not when you know why you're changing. Okay, I have to change. But I kind of think of it as like this. Like some of you have gone through the webinar series with me. You've listened to the webinar, you've done some work in your classroom. But I also kind of think about it like if you go to an exercise studio or a dance class, right? And you watch the steps that you're supposed to do and then you go try do it, but you always want to go back and kind of just double check, do I have everything go, like if it doesn't feel right, maybe there's something that I'm missing, or maybe there's some tip that when you're drinking through the fire hose of learning everything, maybe you weren't able to hear it the first time. There's oftentimes when I hear so much information, I'm like, what do you mean? I've never heard that before. And they're like, yeah, look here, it says right here. But because you're so overwhelmed with that new information, it's hard for you to absorb it all. So that's kind of why I want to just kind of go back around and make sure if students are not learning the way that you were hoping that they would, maybe we should go through the checklist and make sure, are we doing this? Are we doing this? Are we doing this for those students? Because we know some students are going to need to see it 6 or 7 times, they're going to master it. And some students are going to need something, 20, 30, 40 times. Or as Ozzy and Harriet, look at, they're like out. Harriet, she doesn't care. She says, what? Don't wake me up. Yeah, she doesn't care. But for some students, they're going to need to see it 20 or 30 times. And so we want to make sure that we offer opportunities for students to build those neural pathways, but we also want to, make it engaging and fun and not drudgery, right? We don't want to do drudgery. You don't want to do drudgery. Students want to do drudgery. So that's it. So the webinar is next week. The link is in here. So if you haven't signed up yet, it's free. If you can't come to the live webinar, sign up so that you can get the replay link. What else did I want to say? I'm not sure if there was anything else I wanted to say. Do you guys have any questions that you are like, I have this sticking point right now with my classroom, like a certain number of students, or maybe there is something with pacing that you're like having a hard time getting through the lessons, or maybe you are you have a student who's not engaged, something like that, that you would like to ask me. If you're not watching this live and you come back and write it in there later, I will check all of those messages to make sure that I'm answering your question during the webinar. So if this is like Saturday and you're like, oh gosh, I missed that live, don't worry about it. I'll go through and check. Just make sure you add it in the comments so that I don't miss it. And I'll look on the page and in the group and then on YouTube also. So we'll make sure that we get all of those questions gathered up so that I can answer them. It will be an all new session. We'll be reviewing things that we talked about, but I have some new things to add as well. I thought that was going to fall. I have some new things to add as well. So if you're like, well, I've already heard this before, it's going to be some new things that I have been, because we're constantly learning, right? And there was like another article that I have here. I actually had it online, but I want to share some takeaways from this article publication as well. So if you get Education Week, there's a great one in there about game-changing research fuels life-changing literacy. It was pretty cool. You didn't get the link? Edmi, you don't see it in there. Hold on a second. Let me find it. I also sent it out in the newsletter. So, but I'll drop it in here as well for you. Okay, in the chat. So if you didn't see the newsletter, go ahead and open that up. You'll see it in there. And then I just dropped it. It looks like, okay, it's on the Facebook page. I don't know if it's going live to the Facebook group. I feel like it's not connecting to the Facebook group, Edmi. It says it's on Mrs. Will's kindergarten. So, y'all, listen, if there was a different way for me to communicate with you and it would not be Facebook, I would be there for it. I would be like, okay, how can we do this where we don't have to, be painful with all the technology? But let me just see if it's showing up there in the group. Let's see if I'm even live in the group. Okay, I'm live in the group. So if you're in the group, Edmi, look up to the caption at the top of the live. There's a link there, and then I think I got it. It may not be posting. To the caption at the top of the live. There's a link there, and then I think I got it. So it's not showing in the group, but I'll go in and add it. But if you look at the top of it, but it's not showing up in the comments, Edmi, is what I'm trying to say. So I don't even know why. But it's not. So my email. Just email me, Edmi. If you're like, I can't find it, make it easy. Just email me. The other thing I wanted to mention, although this was not the intention of me getting on here, is that these are those decodable books that this is the one that is from Hand to Mind that Deanna and I wrote. And so these are available for purchase now through Hand to Mind. I will say that this probably is not a teacher purchase. It is, because it's ready-made. The boxes are not, I don't want to say they're not cheap, but they're not cheap to make. They're made to last for a long time. They're not like the paper ones that you copy, right? It's more of a school purchase is what I want to say. Okay. So if you are thinking that you would be interested in that, let your administration know that Hand to Mind has some really great decodable books, because now is when school districts are buying things for next year, right? So right now is that buying season. The next month or two is when people are going to be getting samples in, and they're going to be, teams are going to be looking at things. And I want to make sure that you know that these are here. I have a couple. Here's the CBC set. Sorry. Run around barefooted. Here's the CBC set. So they're really nicely organized for you. This is the same text that are in the TPT products that you bought, if you bought it and you download it and copy it off and make copies for your class. But what makes these really cool is that when you open them up, here's the lesson plans. I'm trying not to get the glare on there. Here's the lesson plans written for you. And then all of the text are there for you as well. So the text is there. Can you see it without getting the glare on there? And then the back is for the dictation. So those are great if your school's looking to make a purchase. If you need to have somebody from Hand to Mind come and talk to your administration, they can do that as well. So just make sure you reach out to them, or if you need me to reach out to them for you, you know where to find me. Um, okay, so Melissa, you want to know about the PowerPoint, if I have that in a Google Slide version. So your question probably is it secured, right? You can certainly load it up to for the whole group lessons is what I think you're asking me, Melissa. I'm thinking right now, okay? Because I'm thinking of what I could do to help you. Um, I'm thinking if you don't have access to PowerPoint at all, then you would have to have it loaded for you and need a clickable link, is what I'm hearing that you're saying, right, Melissa? Yes, exactly. Okay. So that would have to be a project that I would have to add. Totally possible. What it would mean is I would secure the PowerPoints, which totally can be done. Um, the only thing is you wouldn't be able to edit the PowerPoints once. I mean, you could delete a page and then add a page if you wanted to, but within there, because I want the fonts to look right, right? Like I want the fonts to look right. So I would need to go through and secure each of those. I'm thinking if there's some other way I could do that. Um, and then load them to Google Drive. And then you would just have them in folders there. I think it'd be better if they were like in folders so that you can just go ahead and pull them up, right? But I really want the fonts to be right. So it means that each one of those, it's a lot. So that would be 50, I was at like 40, 34 weeks times 5 for a second, kindergarten for a second. So it's a big project. I could load them right now and drop a link in there and the fonts would be a little bit wonky, which I know you probably don't want. I just don't know that I have time right now to go through. I know me and my fonts, but you would be okay if I can't edit it. Weekly folders would be amazing. Melissa, I could tonight upload everything into Google Drive and then put a link in there. I would probably have it in there.
Understand. Melissa, I could tonight upload everything into Google Drive and then put a link in there.
Siri, stop. I don't know why I don't know what it is that I say. But I could load it all up and then tomorrow I would be able to put a link in so that you could get access to it, but the fonts would be wonky. In order to secure all those fonts, that takes a considerable amount of time, not totally doable, but it's going to take a long time for me to do that. So I could do it now and then I could go back later and change it like over the summer so that the fonts look great, right? Um Trying to think if there's an easier way for me to do that to get it to you right away. And I just can't think of any other way. So what will happen is okay, so I'll get that for you. How about if I promise you this, Melissa, by Sunday, I will go ahead and have that loaded into the product with a link that you can get. I just have to fly out on Friday and then I'm all day Friday, all day Saturday, coming home Sunday. So it would have to be Sunday before I could get probably everything done, with the idea that I will go back over the summer and secure all those fonts so that they look a little bit better. Okay. If I come up with a different plan, I will let you know. If I could think of some way to do it faster than that, then I'll totally do that for you. Okay. That's a great question. I'm glad that you mentioned it because yeah, that's a huge part of it, that drill that you want to do. So we want to make sure that we have that drill period. And without having those slide decks, it makes it really challenging. So yeah, totally on it. Writing myself a note. I'm going to go ahead though, before I have a bigger list. No, I'm kidding. But if you guys have any other questions, hi, Chloe. If you guys have any other questions, let me know. Like I said, I'll come back here. Harriet is my secretary. She's taking notes. Harriet. She's asleep. But I'll go ahead and check through your questions and make sure that I have everything. You're welcome. And I'll be back on Tuesday. But Melissa, check that on Sunday, and I should have a Google Drive link for you. Okay. Woo! Okay. You guys have a great one. I just woke up Ozzy. I'll tell you what, my helpers are not, these messages keep popping up. Sorry. They're not very enthusiastic. Ozzy. Ozzy. Okay, that's it. That's all we got. All right, you guys have a great night. I will see you on Tuesday, right? Tuesday night, Mountain Standard Time, 5:30 Mountain Time. So that would be 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, right? Oh, I love me some Holly Ely. I love you so much. Good to see you. You are welcome. Thank you for everything that you do for teachers. If you're not familiar with Holly Ely, she is like smartest person I know. So I'm super proud to have her as a friend. All right, you guys be good. Have a nice rest of your week, and I'll see you guys next